What's going on out there, folks? More of the same stuff every week, week in, week out. More chaos, more thinking good news than bad news, than good news than bad news. Well, just to give an idea of perspective, and I know that's one of the topics of conversation often is the perspective of what's going on in the world today. Well, often what we hear on TV for the 99 billionth time, and what we even learn in academia, and what is commonly thought of in the mainstream is often wrong. Well, see this thing right over here, that plane, can you kind of see it? I guarantee, I don't think I'm Nostradamus or anything, but this is a perspective issue. I guarantee you 100% absolutely that when this plane gets here, it's going to appear to be going down. Now it's flying at the same height. There's one up there that is straight above us. I'm not sure if you can see it. There's our beautiful moon, which, if again sitting out in the moon, it's cooler than if I would go hide behind the building over there. You know why? Because the moon puts off cold light. We've done probably 20 experiments demonstrating that you cannot have the moon cooling the air if it were coming from the sun. Now I could take a piece of aluminum foil, shine it on the ground, and then the sun would hit the foil. The sun would hit the ground here, plus the foil, my hand, the back side of it, reflecting back, and it's going to make the temperature warmer when I add that reflection. That's the same thing that should happen with the moon. The sun should be hitting the moon, then coming back to Earth, also receiving the direct sunlight, making it warmer. But when we take this moon out of the picture, the temperature rises. That means when we enter the moon into the picture, if we were to take the temperature with the moonlight in its direct path, it's cooler. That means it cannot be coming from the sun. So what in the world? Here's our plane. It's starting to already come down a little bit if you're taking a look. You see, starting to level out right now. And what in the world is that plane doing up there anyways? I thought those are all closed. Why do we have all these different lines up in the sky all the time from the planes? What are those? Oh, it couldn't be those, geoengineering, dumping particulates all over the earth. And as predicted, of course, the prophet says, oh my God, it went down. How did he predict the flight of the plane? Well, this is also part of what happens when you look out onto the ocean. You think it's turning, but it's a perspective issue, an angle perspective. You look off to the right, you'll think it goes down. You look off to the left, you think it goes down. But in reality, this plane is flying level. It's just the way we see the perspective from our eyesight. And I hope that a lot of people are at least waking up. They have been. They at least have questions these days about what's going on with COVID. And I think it's pretty clear as we've gone over all the different security measures, the surveillance state that they have been putting in over the last 10 years. And then suddenly there's riots and the scare and more possibility of real rioting going on around the country over the last 3 weeks. And I don't think that it's coincidence that it happened right when everything tends to be getting really chaotic. And I think people were starting to question the COVID policies at the time. And then the distraction came by. So what it is, by some people that like to at least evaluate motives, is something that the governments of the world are doing. The governments of the world have done a lot of things over the time. The major presidents, the major funders, the people behind the scenes, the unknown out of the media families that have billions, if not trillions of dollars, are the ones that call a lot of the shots of how we look at our history, all the way back to World War II. I don't think a lot of people knew that the German military, was actually receiving Ford vehicles. I mean, wait, we're in the middle of the war. Anybody that was against or for Germany from America would be instantly shamed and chastised, but we're giving them vehicles, doing business with them. I think there was a few other companies that did business with them. I think Prescott Bush had, I believe, made handguns where a lot of the German soldiers received handguns that were made in the USA. So when it comes to these major wars, we can continue to waste our emotions by believing we're going to be on this side or that side instead of figuring out whether we ought to be in the damn war to begin with. Because if we don't at least look at it that way, then we're being exploited. Every single thought and opinion that we have about the way the world should be, since we like to put so much of this idea of what is, classily enough of the proper judgment of how we think in society, and then we overlook the biggest of things, because millions of people die in wars. And this COVID war, millions probably already have. And if you listen to some of the doctors and some of the nurses that have stepped out of the ring of their protected circles, like every industry, from the police protecting each other from the police brutalities by not opening up their mouths, all the way to the judges. And when they get in the court, why a lot of people that were abused never got as often the level of justice. So that's a clear-cut example of collusion that exists in every major industry. When it comes to the medical industry, it gets tricky. Because for some god-awful known reason, mostly because pharmacy companies, one of the #1 businesses in the entire world, have a direct mobbling to the hospitals and the doctors, so they could sell you meds. And because of that, if you step out from standard thinking, you get fired as a nurse. You get attempted decredibilization upon you. And there have been, and the ones that have stepped out, they said they were intubating people, putting the tubes down their throat way too early, way too often. And they had essentially almost blood money, that if the hospital reported that they put them in intubation, they would get an extra $39,000, $12,000 just to say it is COVID. Now, if we can't put these things together as outright, very skeptical, fraud investigations, and we don't do that work, then we are nothing whatsoever than simple pawns in a big play. So don't get mad at people that question it out, because it won't mean anything if all we're left to do is to back fraud. That brings upon more fraud. And it's the same idea with tyranny. Once you give into it, it's rapacious. It continues to want more. It's like eating Oreo cookies and stick it into there. It's hard to stop at just 2. So folks, if you really want to have a say, and believe me, they don't want you to have a say. They don't want you to know the truth, because they don't want you to really know the real power of human beings if they start to act accordingly in a unified sense. And if we are able to do that, then we can use our God-given, is what I believe, and certainly it exists, our power of truth, our collected spirit to actually make a difference. It's like, why do that? It's too much work. I don't know, because it looks like work's going away again, maybe. 3 to 4 million businesses already shut down over something that they haven't even bothered to give any proof of communicability yet. How many people were in the nursing homes that were left alone, not able to get and receive other human contact from their loved ones that passed away because they got ill and weren't able to be re-energized? How many of them were maybe outright thrown into the hospital and injected? You can't put it past them these days. Obviously, abortion clinics were left open and churches were closed. So that's why a lot of people consider everything being very linked to a satanic plan of a description of what's going on in the world today. So either question and wake up and give ourselves a chance, or just let them push us around to the grave, thinking that somehow we're able to hold some level of nobility, because once we know that there's a potential answer, then there's a responsibility. And if we know we're believing in lies, and we have strong suspicions of the lies that we're told, and we ignore investigating and researching and discussing those things, then we do become partly responsible. Well, I do believe just because that moon and just the way we look at everything, just that tree over there from a tiny seed knew exactly every single branch to be produced from it, and quite often giving us vegetables and fruits, and somehow that being a marking of evolution, that it could all design like this from some magical space explosion billions of years ago. That's the silliest notion ever. So it's more intelligently likely to think that we are created. And through that creation, there is an energy that can be accumulated and used for the positive. But if we don't bust the devil's minions on their lies, like Dr. Fauci and many of the politicians and many of the people making a lot of money that are unwilling to give in to telling us really what's going on at the hospitals, I know Joe and I rode over to Toledo Hospital quite often after they said, oh, it's starting to get crowded, and the tents were set up. Remember the boat out in the New York Harbor? And nobody in there whatsoever. Remember the tents in Central Park? Nobody in there whatsoever. Because they don't know what's going on. And all they did is they still made you feel like tons of people are rushing and rushing, just like they're doing now, because they're testing more. That's all they're doing. They could say it's anything. I mean, they could put just a popsicle stick in your mouth and go, yep, just may as well flip a coin. He's got it, she don't. He's got it, she does, he does. There's no proof of it. And I like the reason they go asymptomatic is so they can continue to create the fear. Fear gives them power. Ignorance gives them power. Courage comes with knowledge. And then we can get our own power. Because we have a right to be here. And we should stand firm and strong. And not to do so is to cave in and to wash away. And who knows, maybe they do want to wash away the many or most of the population. Is that acceptable to you? I mean, how are we going to keep our sense? Like, oh, I can't believe what they did down the street the other night. Oh, I can't believe, that somebody would think that way. I mean, if we can't hold decent judgments about what's going on in this country, at those political levels and the state levels, we really don't have a lot of right to be shaming that much people about anything. A proper order and to create a proper social structure has to make sense from our beliefs at the top to the bottom. Even if we may not be able to stop it, it's still wrong to go along with it. And I really believe that we can stop it. I think all we have to do, if everybody really firmly knew, and if that TV came out and you heard some of the big names, which you shouldn't even need to get it from them. You get it from your own sense of confidence developed by doing enough healthy research and healthy skepticism into what the situation is. And it's going to give you a far better knowledge that we would reject our system. And it would change nearly overnight. So until we find that common sense of courage through knowledge and a reasonable sense of compassion for humanity, we can expect to continue to decline. And this time around, it might be for keeps forever. Every now and then, there are giant events that happen throughout history. I think anybody looking at it with just a sliver of honesty will be able to say, yes, I think today's times qualify for leading up to the most major historical events ever. So, believe the lie and most likely die, or stand for truth and start to build on a foundation that can provide resistance and strength and long-lasting endurance, and receive what a lot of people claim as the strength caused from believing in God and the honesty and honor. And that's the path that I hope to continue to choose. Over and out, everybody. See you later. See you later, Moon. Since you're your own light, the best we can determine scientifically, I'm going to believe you were made by the Creator. More proof. I'll go ahead and deny it, deniers.